Hello and welcome to the Landscape Podcast. I'm Evan Kinne, the CEO of Access Capital. We're the parent company to George Smith Partners. As usual, for guests of the Landscape, we hope you subscribe to FinFacts. It's our newsletter. Just go to gspartners.com. That's GS Partners as in George Smith Partners.com. Click on FinFacts and subscribe. You'll get weekly insights into the market, real estate deals, etc. And of course, links to this podcast. And of course, you can find this wherever you find the finest podcasts. Today, I'm joined by two very amazing people. Ed Steffelin, co-founder of Access Capital, is here on the call. And we have a special guest, Colby Durnin. We'll let Colby introduce himself here in a minute, but Colby is the founder and CEO of CREDE. And we'll I'm sure, learn all about CREDE today, so I won't spill the beans on it here. So let's dive right into it. Colby, you want to give us a little bit of background on what CREDE is and what you guys do?
Sure. So Evan, Ed, great seeing you guys as always. Thank you for the invite and time today. So CREDE is a national project management and real estate development company. I founded it, we're in our 24th year now, and I co-run it with my business partner, Thomas Ryder. I run the project management business and Thomas runs our real estate development company. So on the West Coast, we use terms like construction management or owner's representation, program management. The East Coast, they think some of that is general contracting, but we're truly, if I always use the analogy of football, we're the quarterbacks or the offensive coordinators, overseeing the rest of the team and for clients, making sure that things are delivered as quickly and efficiently as possible with the best outcome.
It's great. So why don't we talk about a few of your stats and tell people a little bit about your company? I think obviously you founded it about 25 years ago in 2001. I think according to the high quality research we do here, it's about 195 million square feet of projects. So I don't know if that's correct, but over $5 billion in value and 10 asset classes, industrial, multifamily, hospitality, and office. So you guys have been in all sorts of, businesses. And I think that's worth noting that you guys are a scaled company at this point. So anything else you want to add there on
Yeah,
kind of pounding your chest here a bit as a company?
I'd be happy to. So I was very fortunate. I got to go to work for Oaktree and work directly for Russ Bernard back in the late 90s. And my first marquee project was Turtle Bay Resort. I was out there for 5 years representing Oaktree. And so Russ asked if I would start the company and be a programmatic relationship with Oaktree, and which we did. And we were able to really learn a lot and scale with them. And then when Russ and the top 10 partners of Westport Capital Partners left, we established an exclusive programmatic relationship with Westport for 7 years. I sold half the company to my partner Thomas in 2015. And today we've scaled from me as one guy sitting in a hotel room doing absolutely everything from taking the trash out to the figuring out how to unstick the copier to roughly 200 project managers, including our 1099s, over 250 people in 22 states. We're working on pretty much every asset class from small jobs. Like we have a storage REIT that we work for. We oversee all their capital improvement projects, with an average size of about $40,000, all the way up to doing staff augmentation and outsourcing, where we're staffing a team to help KSL with the expansion of Deer Valley. And so I get to come to work every day and manage a wonderful team of people and be involved in all sorts of different projects and asset classes.
Got it. Well, let's dive into it, Ed.
Yeah. So how did you decide to go into commercial real estate really quick to roll back? How did that happen?
Sure. So my family was historically in medicine. My dad and grandfather and great grandfather were all orthopedic surgeons. But my dad's mom had come from a very strong family in West Texas where my great grandma kicked my great granddad out and bought the hotel with her wedding ring and became a hard money lender to wildcatters in West Texas in the early 1900s.
Wow.
And so my grandmother learned real estate at an early age from her mom and helped teach it to me, and the value of projects and managing it, and what real estate could be. And so I cut my teeth buying my first deal from the RTC in the 1990s, and fell in love with it. And I had always wanted to go into the military. My dad was a lieutenant commander, and my granddad was a one-star general. But I, lucky or not, broke my neck in 4 places, so I'm the one out of 100 who's not a quadriplegic. And so it
Wow.
kept me out of you know doing what I wanted to do in the military. And so I actually started my career working internationally because I like the adrenaline and the kind of the cachet of overseas work, and it just made sense to me. So
Wow,
I
it's
guess that's a
it's
long, a
definitely in
long
your
way to
blood.
say I had no idea how the hell I got here, but I just kept saying yes.
That's great.
So
That's great.
yeah. So when you launched Creed in 2001, obviously you had, I guess, the Oak Tree deal sort of in hand. So, you know, I just a lot of people are talking about Nvidia and Jensen Huang right now, who is kind of like top of the world, right? As an entrepreneur, built this gigantic company. And I heard this interview with him where someone asked him what advice he would give to a young entrepreneur. And he said, "Don't do it." So, what rolling back to 2001, uh, what advice would you have for folks? I mean, launching your company with sort of this private equity relationship with Oak Tree probably was a little bit comforting, but I'm sure it's been a long road to get here to a 250 person company. So, what advice would you have for folks that are looking to launch a new company?
I'd probably give the opposite advice. I was actually having this conversation with a gentleman yesterday who's a very successful COO, and he was, debating, does he launch his own company or does he stay there? And my answer to people is, once you get to a certain point in life where you have your network, your family, your neighborhood, a lot of folks want to stay there, and they have the
Right.
sense that a W-2 is, a safety net. And my answer is, well, if you look around and you figure out what you want to make and what your industry is, how many of those jobs exist in your neighborhood or within the drive area that you want to be in? You'll probably figure out it's around 10, maybe 15 or 20 tops. And then you start looking at and saying, well, how many people are competing for that exact same job? And to me, at the end of the day, you're at the whim of someone else deciding whether or not you're the right person for that job, or someone else is that's younger, less expensive, or more innovative than you are. Whereas as an entrepreneur, it's up to us to pivot. The buck stops with you no matter what job you're in. That's your job. Your job is to get up and do the best thing you can every single day. And if you're a responsible human being, the buck should stop with you. As entrepreneurs, we get to do that every day and multiply it across, but we can adapt and move our business, in my opinion, faster than we can if we're working for someone else. So I'm a big believer in that. And I think that's also part of what makes America strong and great and resilient.
Well, I'm so old, I'm unhireable, so there was no choice but to be an
I'm getting there,
entrepreneur.
Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm aging out.
Yep.
So, now you guys do different markets, different assets, right? Hospitality to architecture, planning to industrial. How do you manage all of that? I mean, that's a lot of industries, geographies, roles. How do you keep up with all that?
Well, yeah, one point of clarification there. So, like our development company, as an example, is highly focused. So we either get into a market or a strategy. So Thomas and his team right now are focused on shallow bay light industrial in Texas as a development. For us on our service business, we're just program managers. We do a little general contracting, but we're not architects, we're not engineers, we're not property managers. We really pick that swim lane of what can we be the best at? Because you can't be everything to everyone. So we focus truly being on the best owners reps and program or project managers we can. And then when we staff a job, we look at it and we try to team up our industry experts, which is one of the nice things about having the bench we have. So as an example, if we were looking at a hospitality deal in Tennessee, but our local person there might be stronger in warehouses or industrial. We'll team that local person up with somebody who's done 2,000 hotel rooms. And so you get the industry knowledge and experience with the local knowledge of contractors, building inspectors, et cetera.
Got it.
You guys are kind of similar as you're raising capital or looking at debt with, the teams that are, people that are on your team I mean, having worked with you, it's like, I know you have leads in different market sectors and areas as well.
That's right. Try and, put together the best team for the client. And that's what we do as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So, as you're expanding your business, do you guys think about expanding first you just talked about how you expand into markets, but let's talk about verticals as well. Like, how do you unpack that, as you think about growing your company and the expertise? Because obviously you guys have a deep, deep expertise in your core area, and that might translate to all the different real estate verticals. I'm talking about your services business here. But
Mhm.
then, to enter a new market, you may have the institutional credibility, having worked with all these, great equity sponsors of projects. But then ultimately, there's always that question as a small to mid-sized company. I would put you guys squarely in like a mid-sized company, or even in the real estate world, you're kind of a larger company today. But in the context of, the grand scheme of things, kind of a smaller business. And I'm sure you're competing at times with companies that are like 5 to 10 times your size. So how do you think about that, and how do you try to set CREDE apart? Like, what's in your DNA that allows you to do that?
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, we're competing against firms that are 10 times our size, and we're also competing against firms that are two guys and, a couple of SUVs that work out of their house. So, one, as we build our company, we're doing it both organically and also through acquisitions. So our business, our space has been very, very fragmented over the years. And when I started, you basically worked your career and you retired it and either closed your shingle or you handed it off to the next guy below us. But there wasn't a great, value to the business. That changed about 10 years ago as we started seeing roll-ups. And so the bigger guys are definitely getting bigger. We focus for ourselves, we're actually acquiring medium-sized companies right now that in specific markets and building our business like a stock portfolio where we look for best-in-class regional players that want to be part of something bigger, but that we can really see that are net accretive to us with value within the company, but most importantly, the client, and diversify our space both geographically and then also by industry. Um, so that's kind of our growth mode. How do we compete against the bigger guys? That comes back to, my partnership with Thomas. So most people in our space, they focus very much on the construction side and they execute it. You get a set of plans and you kind of try to value engineer 5 to 7%, or you'll focus on forward planning, the entitlement space, or like your space, you're focused on the capital market side. We're not on the capital market side, but because we're also developers, we are our clients. So our folks work for ourselves on our own deals, and we educate them to understand what is the preferred return, what is the IRR, and what does it really mean. Jerry Poucher in our office, I love to tell this story and brag about him because he was training a younger guy, and they were out trying to close out a hotel, and the building inspector came through and said that they wanted 6 more palm trees. And Jerry looked at him and said, "Well, if I agree to that, will you give me a TCO today?" And the guy agreed on the spot, and it was a $40,000 budget bust. And the APM said to him, "Oh my gosh, aren't you going to get in trouble and everything else?" And Jerry said, "No, the client's going to actually be happy with us because I just saved 30 days and got the hotel open. And while that's
Right.
$40,000,
You
you
just
know,
saved
I,
$1 million.
I just saved $2.5 million a carry." And so
Right.
we try to train our project managers to think like it's their own checkbook and that they're really, we ask questions that a lot of our clients, they would say, "Well, you're just a project manager. Why do you want to see our model? Why do you want to understand our business plan?" I'm like, "Because we really want to understand your DNA because we're the tip of the spear. And the more we know about your ethos, the better we can be for you."
Nice.
It's great.
Well, next question is, you've got obviously a great team across the country. How do you maintain the culture, being different locations? You're also acquiring companies. How do you try and keep that and build and maintain that culture?
It's not always easy. And it really comes down to your hires. Like, as you guys know, it's who's your senior team and how do you lead from the front? So, we get our senior team members together on a regular basis, not just L10 meetings, which we do, but we of course have our weekly L10s for sales and marketing. We have them by area, by region. We have EVPs that are set up by region of the country so that they get together. And then frankly, this is where myself and Mark Fergus, my COO, rack up a lot of airline miles. So it's, to me, I mean, I'll be at 4 different holiday parties this year. Because it's important that I want to know and meet every one of our people's spouses, and that, if they're going to get together and they're sacrificing their hours for me, they need to know I'll do it for them.
That's great.
That's great. How do you feel about work from home and remote work?
Well, a lot of our work as an industry has been remote for years because we spend, our producers, our revenue generators spend a lot of time in job shacks and trailers and on site. So, that's where our people are out in the fields. If we're just reading plans or doing it from an office, we're not doing our job effectively. That said, I try to get as many people into an office as I can by area. So, we have close to 100 people in our Irvine office. And, we allow remote work, especially folks like our accounting and finance team. But it's partial remote. We're asking them to come in. I've never been a fan of time tracking or keyboard tracking. If you've got to get to that level, you've lost. So, my belief,
Incentives.
yeah, we're 100%, what do you call it? Flexible PTO. So we have unlimited PTO in the firm. And so my attitude is I want people to be able to go see their kids' game or go to, Johnny's play or musical. But then I also am expecting them to pick up the phone at 7 o'clock at night or on a weekend if there's a problem, because, if something goes wrong in construction, it's not something that can wait till Monday.
Right. Speaking of things going wrong, give us a little side note here. Like, give us like some crazy thing that you've seen on a construction job. I mean, I'm sure there's like 1,000 stories, but give us a good one here.
Well, I'll give you one that luckily didn't happen. And, but my wife still laughs about it today. So this is back when I was a senior project manager and we were flying in, cooling towers, which are the big boxes that go on the top of a building for air conditioning central plants. And we were flying them in with a helicopter. And, the next day, and I had gotten a forecast that the trade winds were supposed to be about 15 miles an hour. And so my dream was so vivid that I saw the helicopter crashing and coming down. And so I actually shoved my wife out of bed to save her life, to get her out of the way. And so as she woke up hitting the floor, she turned and looked at me and said, I think it's time for a vacation. So,
Man, that's hilarious. Okay, that's good. I'm glad that didn't happen.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, we've had all sorts of stuff, and you have lots of personalities on job sites where, we've had marshals show up, we've had sheriffs show up, we've had people arrested, we've had, fights with hammers. There's been lots of stuff over the years, but you're managing a highly dynamic team of people that range into hundreds of people on a job site, and tensions get high. So you have to have a personality where if you're yelling at someone, you've lost. And so it's about coaching people to be their best person and to execute in high stress, even if it's not their nature.
Right. Got it. Question: ESG, sustainability, design flexibility. What are the themes you see out there from your clients, and are those still big, themes in the real estate development world?
It is. I'm a big believer in ESG as a principle. I think we all need to be focused on sustainability long term, and yeah, and you can look at it different ways. I mean, for years the big issue was mold or mildew or different things, and for me, that's not necessarily that's the outcome of of a negative. But as an ESG basis, that's about your overall envelope design. It's about waterproofing. It's about building performance. And so, I think first and foremost, you need to design a sustainable building that is, economical and high performance. We're not, luckily, not seeing it as much as it was the buzzwords 5 years ago with, everybody thinking you had to be LEED platinum. So the pendulum is swinging back into just, what I consider common sense, um, sustainable building that's well designed that people can be proud of.
I want to switch gears into the T word,
Okay.
tariffs.
Oh,
Um, you know, what are you seeing, on the cost side right now? I mean, you guys have an incredible amount of scale into a lot of projects and a lot of sort of firsthand knowledge from the ground floor, so to speak. So, in the absence of government reporting, where are we at on inflation here?
so I mean, I think, it was interesting. I heard a stat. This was the first time we've had the political uh, unrest indicator come back as one of our economic indicators. I think it's Nixon. Um, the good news is that's starting to stabilize out. Our business is all about predictability. So if you think about when you start a project, this isn't something that, you're in and done with in 12 months. From the time you kind of envision it to the time it's stabilized, you're 3 to 5 years, which is effectively half an economic cycle, start to finish. So, overall, the tariffs have so far have been around 3.5% of a total project cost. We've seen people want to get deals done, so people are being creative where, we can go with dual checks and have owners write, checks directly or on a net 10 basis and save effectively the tariff cost by paying faster, because then the suppliers aren't having their credit lines. The one that I'm most worried about right now is furniture tariffs. So, seeing a 25% hit on your FF&E from Vietnam, which is the latest, for FF&E and case goods, that I haven't seen play out yet. Um, and so there's been enough. The good news, bad news is, multifamily has been slow. It's really starting to pick back up. We're seeing a lot of forward planning, a lot of entitlement work being done because, again, while that was overbuilt in certain markets, by the time we can deliver new, the vacancy will be absorbed in a couple of years in most markets. And I'd say about all markets 9 months from now, as I start to forecast forward. Hospitality is slowed down other than the luxury cycle, the luxury segment, excuse me. On PIPs and such is because operating expenses have gone up. So the ROI to do a hotel renovation and a lower end limited service isn't necessarily there at the moment. So I think that gives time for tariffs for specific goods to balance out, from when people will need it. Right here, right now, it's a little bit scary on those two, on furniture and case goods.
Got it. And how are you working with your clients to, just inflation, supply chain issues, obviously interest rate volatility? Have you put in more cushion into the numbers or work with your clients a little bit? Just seems like a lot of things moving around these days.
And that gets back to that predictability. The good news, bad news is, from our side, we're at the bottom. We think we've already bottomed out on construction costs. In most markets, we saw kind of the backlog and this is for private development, not public. So I'm going to exclude data centers. I'm going to exclude, education, infrastructure, and hospitality. So I'm getting back to kind of your industrial, multifamily hotel, et cetera. We saw the backlog really start to shorten or evaporate about last January. And so for now, we're actually starting to put standard CPI inflation back into our numbers starting in 2026. But that's 3% a year, not 7% a quarter, like we've seen it for years.
Interesting. Um, so I guess how do you think about technology, artificial intelligence, all that stuff that's happening, automation, process automation? Obviously we're living in a very, very interesting time. Potentially the time with the greatest industrial leverage since the Industrial Revolution, right? And potentially over a shorter time frame. So, how are you guys monitoring that, and how do you think about that?
So I'm a big believer. Like I think I have a almost 20-year-old and almost 17-year-old. And to me, they're the first generation that'll to consider AI not part of their standard life. If anybody moving forward, to me, it's like they can't envision life without an iPhone. I think the next generation will not be able to envision world without AI. So, for us, it's there, it's here. Um, we actually have brought in a group called chiefaiofficer.com to help us with internal automation. Again, we have an entire task force within CREDE that meets weekly, and I'm amazed at how fast we've been able to write our own systems and implement on simple things. It's not, the numbers aren't quite there yet from like pure modeling perspective. I think the language model works better than numbers do, but that's adapting as well. So I think it'll greatly modify a lot of processes and procedures. And 3 years from now, the question will be not what will AI do for us, but what part of AI isn't touching our business.
Yeah, and we'll see once we have like fully bipedal robots run around all the job sites. How that changes the performance as well.
It is, and to your point, I mean, on design side, like industrial, all of our industrial clients are oversizing switchgear. They're oversizing, pipes. So like, you're looking at a 20,000 square foot building that has 3 times the power supply, or at least the capacity to do so. And in infill markets, we have some clients that are looking at their foundation systems to forward proof to potentially raise the roof or put a second story on, to make the buildings more adaptable in the future.
Interesting. I just anecdotally here, just a major side note, but I recently went to a conference, and the CEO of this company called Zipline spoke, about last mile delivery and you know, flying, drones to deliver packages on the last mile. Are you guys seeing any of that sort of preparation with industrial projects? I know some of the major industrial groups are looking at this, like building punch outs on the buildings and all this type of stuff, or have you not really seen that yet?
Well, I'm 10 days until duck season opens in Southern California. So, we're just trying to see if yeah, if those drones can be targets or not. But no, I have not been able to, I haven't had any of our team been able to work on a project like that yet.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's
interesting.
coming, and I think it's going to
It's
come really
coming.
fast because it's incredibly deflationary. You're talking about a potential 1,000 times reduction in energy costs to deliver over the last mile. So that's going to change real estate as well. So, um, I want to jump back into like a bit of purpose. I know you guys have a bit of a philanthropic bent to you as a business leader in a company. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, we're big supporters of in Orange County of the BIA and the diaper drives, and we're always trying to figure out how can we either affect people that are very young. Um, so, like my wife is a school teacher, so our belief is how can we help coach people where they can make an impact on themselves at an early age, and then the flip side of that is how can we thank and make sure to work with people that have served us. So, one of CREED's biggest charities is War Heroes on Water. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the founding board members. And so that's a program in partnership with Freedom Alliance, which is Oliver North's foundation, where we take wounded combat veterans out fishing for 3 days, put them on a high performance team, get them back in a team environment, and just really say one, thank you, but make sure that they understand that they're loved, that they can be back on a high performance basis. And we've raised about $6.5 million over the last 8 years. And that money goes towards sending combat veterans on trips where they can be back with their teams, helping send orphans of combat veterans to college, and buying special vehicles and houses and items needed to really make sure that they can be successful, back in civilian life.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Congrats.
Well, our
Um,
new deal is to bring that to the beach. So we have a golf tournament that we started last year, and we have our big Creed Days of Summer, where all the proceeds go to War Heroes. So if anybody wants to get involved and that's not in the fishing community, we're trying to expand it so that it's much bigger than Creed and really just focuses on our veterans.
That's awesome. Cool.
congrats.
Yeah, if you could, we'll move into a bit of a few rapid fire questions here at the end, and we'll wrap it up. But
Sure.
obviously, you're growing a big company, and I'm sure every day, just like what I think about is I get up, I'm like, man, if we can just make a little bit of forward progress every day, it compounds, you know. And kind of before this, we jumped on here, we were chatting a bit. You know, rolling it back to the very beginning, if there was something you would do different, what would it be? And and maybe not, maybe you do the whole thing exactly the same and whatnot, but love to hear that from you.
Sure. Happy to answer that. So, I mean, when I started, it was me saying yes. I didn't have the company defined as well as I'd like. I didn't have kind of the overall mission. So we stumbled around for a lot of years, um, really doing, 100% of my focus was our clients without a focus on the business being the business. So it took us a decade to really start to figure out what our growth plans were, what we wanted to be when we grow up. We're still not 100% there yet, but I'd say, for, you can always jump out the dark window and be an entrepreneur, but at least have a little bit more of the plan framed up versus I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other, which is how I started.
Good.
Nice. Well, what's the most exciting project or initiative you guys have that, you're super excited about and playing offense and growing the business? Or can you say?
Um, can't tell you about that specific project, but we're under a tight NDA on that one. But I'd say the biggest thing for me is really the integration. So, when like we bought a group last year, Murrow, in Southern California, that just did horizontal work. Um, we're now and then with the addition of Hill Building Group, they specialize in stadiums. And so being able to see all of our teams come together and really not just add value to ourselves, but to the clients, and see where we can really add and pick up to execute faster and better that's what I focus on every single day.
It's
It's
great.
great. So where do people find out about Creed? I know you guys have a podcast, right? You must be a
We
world
do.
famous podcaster just like us. Uh, but
I hope you guys get more views than we do.
oh, we get a few. We're doing all right. We're doing all right out there. Um, yeah, obviously in our niche, I think we provide great content for people in the real estate space, building companies in the real estate space, but we are in a niche for sure. So I think you guys have a podcast as well, right? Playing
We
offense
do.
with Creed. Yep.
Yep.
And but more importantly, I think tell us a little bit about how to find out about Creed, and then where do your customers engage with you, et cetera. Give us a little
Sure.
advertisement here. Shameless
Yeah,
plug.
happy to. So on our podcast, it's Creed Play Offense. We're on YouTube. We're across social media platforms. Our website is creedgroup.com. You can come directly to our main line here in Irvine, California. We're right next to Orange County Airport. That's 949-542-4400 if you want to call us. And you also find me on LinkedIn personally as well as a company. So happy to help any way we can.
We love LinkedIn. Ed's our LinkedIn maven here.
He
So
is. He's got a great presence. And I
yeah,
like your post too.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate having you on here today. Thanks for joining us. And just for our guys and our guests here, as a reminder, gspartners.com, George Smith Partners, GSPARTNERS.com. Make sure you sign up for FinFacts. It's a weekly newsletter. We have economic write-up on the every week that comes out in that about the real estate space in general. We also give terms of and details on deals that we've closed that week. We close multiple deals every week, so we think we give away a ton of information to the real estate space. So if you're not signed up for that newsletter, I would highly recommend doing that. That's my shameless plug. So Colby, thank you for joining us here on The Landscape, and looking forward to seeing you in person here sometime soon.
You as well, Evan. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ed. You guys have a great day.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys.